Hello and welcome to Bust or Trust, a kids' mystery podcast. I'm Tiernan.
And I'm Athena. Bust or Trust is the podcast where we unravel the world's greatest mysteries with help from you, our chief detectives.
We present all the best evidence and then ask you to decide. Which team are you on?
Are you a myth buster like me?
Or are you a myth truster like me? We look into all sorts of strange stories from around the world to find out what really happened, so that you can ask, is it real or is it false?
Is it fact or is it fiction?
Is this jazz?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is, but please stop. It's making me feel ill.
Ugh, fine. We tell you at the end of the show just how to get in touch so you can let us know if you're on Team Buster or the best one, Team Truster.
So, chief detectives, get ready to take notes and start putting together your case, while we have a quick word with the grown-ups.
But before we do, I have exciting news. The Bust or Trust book is now available to pre-order. Like the show, it's packed full of legendary people, strange events, mythical creatures, magical places, and otherworldly tales, with 10 real-life mysteries to dive into. And it's stuffed full of wonderful illustrations too. Visit our website for more details at bustortrust.com. Now, a word with the grown-ups.
The case.
Hey, Chief Detectives. Today we are looking into the case of the Headless Blemmyes, the mysterious beings in ancient texts that were said to have faces in their chests.
I can't even begin to imagine how ridiculous they looked. How did they see? Did they have to cut holes into their t-shirts? Did they sneeze from their belly? Honestly, I can't get my head around it.
You don't have to, Athena. I've prepared something to help you out. Look.
What are you doing?
Wait for it. Ta-da!
I see. You've drawn a face on your belly. How does that help exactly?
Well, now I look like how they must have looked. Hello there, I'm the Headless Blemmyes. Ho, ho, ho.
But stories say the Blemmyes had their faces on their chests, not their stomachs.
Well, yeah, I couldn't quite bend my elbows enough to draw on my chest. It's not easy, you know, but, ho, 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 I have a mouth for a belly button.
Why is your mouth full of fluff? Ugh.
Oh, yeah, I'd better go and spit it out somewhere. Ho, ho, ho. Oh, so much fluff.
I'm so sorry, Chief Detectives. At least you only heard that and didn't have to see it or smell it. Anyway, let me tell you all about the Headless Blemmyes. The Blemmyes, or headless men, are strange creatures who, throughout history and in many cultures, have been rumoured to live in very remote, distant parts of the world. They are said to look like humans, but without a head, and there are some that have all their facial features on their chest, and others who have eyes on their shoulders. The Blemmyes were, at first, said to exist in Africa, but over time, and through many different accounts, their homeland changed to India and other parts of Asia, and all the way to South America.
Well, there is no...
Can you take your jumper off your head, please, and stop pretending to talk through your belly? I'm not sure the Chief Detectives can understand the word your stomach is saying.
Okay. While there is no physical evidence for the Blemmyes, they have been written about by many famous writers throughout history from Europe and Asia. They've also been mentioned in Shakespeare's plays Othello and The Tempest, and they were said to inspire Lewis Carroll's version of Humpty Dumpty in Alice Through the Looking Glass, which means the stories must have come from somewhere.
There is no physical evidence that the headless men ever existed, but some historians think they could have been a real source for the stories.
So, Chief Detectives, it's up to you this week to trust your gut feeling, ho, 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 and decide, did the Blemmyes really exist or not?
Have you added a moustache?
Yes, I have. I'm a fancy Blemmy, ho, ho, ho.
I'm not sure I can stomach this for a whole case.
Well, you're going to have to, as I have a real chest-thumping first piece of evidence, ho, ho, ho.
First piece of evidence.
The first piece of evidence that proves the Headless Blemmyes did exist is that they were written about by some of history's most famous scribes. The very first mentions of them come from Herodotus, the ancient Greek historian who is known as the father of history. Which must be exhausting, as how do you even get history a birthday present or take it to the park?
What about telling it to go to bed? That would literally take all of time. Oof.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. Herodotus was alive in the 4th century BC and lived in what was then a Greek city called Halicarnassus, but is now the city of Bodrum in Turkey. Herodotus' most famous works are called histories, and they are said to be the first ever written historical account in Western literature. He claimed to have travelled all around the world in order to write a book detailing the time of the Greco-Persian Wars from 550 BC to 479 BC. And his book Histories is still thought of as the leading source of historical information for that time. And as well as all the historical events Herodotus wrote about in that account, he also mentioned the Blemmyes. He called them the akephaloi, which is ancient Greek for without a head. He said that the headless akephaloi and the dog-headed cynocephaly lived in the eastern edge of ancient Libya, and that was according to his Libyan sources.
So he hadn't seen them himself. He just had a Libyan source who is unnamed. That doesn't seem like a reliable source to me. And while Herodotus did give an amazing historical account of so many events, he also put a lot of Greek mythology into his writing, and some, well, clearly made up strange bits too. Like how in Book 3 of Histories, Herodotus wrote about a species of fox-sized furry ants that live in eastern India. Experts think he may have confused the old Persian word for marmot with mountain ant. Scholars and historians say that while Herodotus' work is definitely amazing and useful, it's at least partly unreliable. So just because he said they were Blemmyes, who knows what his Libyan source was actually talking about?
Yeah, marmots are pretty different from giant furry ants. And now I'm thinking about marmots with 6 legs and antennae, and it is pretty freaky. I'm glad that's not a thing. But it wasn't just Herodotus who wrote about these weird headless people. Roman geographer Pomponius Mela was one of the first people to use the name Blemmy when describing people in Africa who had their face on their chest. And Roman author Pliny the Elder also wrote about the Blemmy of North Africa, who had no heads, their mouths and eyes being seated in their breasts. Pliny said they lived in Ethiopia or in the area along the Nile River known as Nubia. Headless people also appear in many ancient Asian legends, such as the Zoroastrian scriptures from the area we now know as Iran. They are mentioned in the Book of Curiosities from 11th century Egypt, and in the Indian epic, the Ramayana, there is a demon who has no head but an eye in the middle of his stomach. There are countless other mentions of the Blemmyes or headless people in texts from ancient China and ancient Japan too, which means they must have got their ideas from something real.
They certainly did, but their ideas may have come from earlier texts, like Herodotus' Histories, that talked about the Blemmyes there. Ancient Greek literature influenced later ancient Greek and Roman literature, which in turn influenced Western literature. Mythological tales from across Asia would have been told to many by merchants and travellers, meaning that ideas and stories would have spread and made their way into other stories too. In those times, people were quicker to believe in the supernatural. Religion and folklore were very powerful then, and strange monsters or ghouls were often used to teach morals or as ways to keep people safe from real dangers. Mythical and imaginary creatures were also used to represent areas they didn't understand and people they saw as foreign and therefore, in their minds, unusual. It doesn't mean, however, that the Blemmyes are real or ever were. They were just a symbol of parts of the world that, at the time, remained a mystery to the writers.
That is really interesting, but if they were just a symbol used by ancient writers to show undiscovered lands, then the second piece of evidence puts another idea on the map.
Second piece of evidence.
The Blemmyes feature on many medieval maps from the 1300s to the 1700s, and they have very similar images in all their appearances. Let me show you Athena. All these maps place the Blemmyes in a number of different locations around the world. Like this one, the Hereford Mappa Mundi, the largest medieval map known to exist from around 1300 AD. It places the Blemmyes in Ethiopia, saying the information came from the Roman scholar Isidore of Seville. The map shows two different Blemmyes, one with eyes and a mouth on their chest, and the other with eyes on their shoulders, both of which, according to Isidore, existed. Whereas this one, the Ranulph Higden map from 1393, has an inscription above the depiction of Ethiopia, mentioning the headless people there. And Andreas Wolfsberger's map from 1448 also shows the Blemmyes in the same place. But the Andrea Bianco map of 1436 said the headless people come from India, and a French navigator, Guillaume Letetsu, drew on his map from the late 1500s that they lived in the Himalayas. At the same time as these maps were created, people were travelling more and giving more detailed accounts of their findings. The 1357 travelogue of an Englishman named John Mandeville wrote about people living in the Andaman Islands who were ugly folk without heads who have eyes in each shoulder with their mouths round like a horseshoe in the middle of their chest. And the famous Nuremberg Chronicle, an illustrated encyclopedia from 1349, has the Blemmyes drawn in the same way again. Why did all the drawings on maps show similar-looking creatures and place them in the same locations across the world?
They aren't the same locations though, are they? It started with the Blemmyes being in Ethiopia, then moved on to Asia. And many of these map makers used ideas from the ancient writers to fill in the gaps they hadn't yet explored.
You might be right with that, but at the end of the 1500s, the English explorer Sir Walter Raleigh travelled to the Venezuelan region of Guyana in South America. He reported that headless people, known there as Los Iwaiponomas, lived on the banks of the Caura River. He said this was true as every child in the local area could confirm it. Raleigh also said that he knew of a Spanish traveller who'd seen one. That's someone travelling to a place and hearing about headless people right there.
Walter Raleigh never saw the Blemmyes for himself, and I'm not sure the tales of children or an anonymous Spanish traveller count as evidence. A Dutch explorer from the same time as Raleigh dismissed the stories and said they weren't true at all. A French missionary called Joseph-François Lafitau was based in North America and thought that perhaps many of these stories about the Blemmyes came from groups of people whose natural appearance was to have their heads set quite deep into their shoulders.
Having a short neck isn't the same as having eyes on your shoulders.
It isn't, but as stories and descriptions travel, they get exaggerated. In fact, there is another theory, which is that the Blemmyes were actually exaggerated reports about bonobo apes. When bonobo apes move around, they naturally hold their heads very low down into their chest. So it could be that when travellers described seeing them, their meanings and words changed and warped as the stories spread from person to person. Then, these stories that were about the apes changed and became tales about headless people.
I can't imagine bonobos would be happy about that. I reckon they'd go, ape!
No.
OK. Well, the final piece of evidence will prove the Blemmyes definitely existed, just maybe not fully in a headless way.
Third piece of evidence.
The final piece of evidence is that the Blemmyes were a real nomadic tribe. They lived in the areas of Africa we now know as Sudan and southern Egypt between the 7th and 8th century BC. We know quite a lot about their history thanks to records from the ancient Greeks and the Romans. For example, we know they had kings, that they worshipped several of the same gods as the ancient Egyptians, and we also know that their language was an ancestor of one spoken in the area today, known as Beja. But did they have heads? Or really big eyes in their chest or shoulders? Probably not. But they were called Blemmyes, so that means the Blemmyes did exist.
OK, Tiernan, I'll give you this one. The Blemmyes did exist, and there is a theory by a number of historians that the ancient Blemmy warriors may have carried shields with faces on, or marched into battle with their heads tucked in close to their chests, either of which may have started the stories about headless people. But it's impossible to say for certain that's where the story comes from. And thanks to carvings called reliefs, which are pictures made in wood or stone, we know for sure that the Blemmyes definitely did have heads.
Unless the headless Blemmyes drew themselves with heads because they were sad they didn't have one.
You never know, but probably not. If headless people did exist though, I wonder if they'd be jealous of people with heads.
Or would they think we're losers because of all the money we'd have to spend on hats?
Look, not many people spend this long making a wish.
I know, but I've only got 3, Genie, and I want to make sure I thought this through.
It's amazing how after waiting 3,000 years, 35 minutes can seem even longer. Please make a wish.
Oh, I've got it. I hate having to wash my hair, so I wish to have no head and for my face to be on my chest.
What? That's so weird. Why would you... No, sorry, I mustn't question. Your wish has been granted.
Hooray, I've got a belly face. This is great. I feel so light and a bit cold. I'll just put a jumper on. Oh, I can't see. Belly face is rubbish. For my second wish, Janie, I wish my face was on my hand.
You know you can literally wish for anything in the universe.
Face on hand, please.
Which hand?
Right. I'm a righty.
Here you go.
I've got a little hand face. I can raise my arm up and see so high. Music gigs will be brilliant now. This is excellent. Thank you, Jeannie. High five.
Are you sure?
Don't leave me hanging.
Okay.
Oh, you smashed me in the face. How could you?
Let me guess.
Face hand is stupid. For my third wish, please put my face anywhere else on my body. Anywhere else.
If you say so, you're the boss after all.
Ooh, this feels nice. Where am I? Where did you put me? I'm lower down than before.
That's all your wishes done. But before I go, why not have a seat?
Oh, thanks. Chair, please.
Bye. Enjoy relaxing.
Just what I need after all that wish stress. I can't breathe. Help! Oh, I can smell that right in my nose. Oh, I don't want a bum face. I need more wishes. Please, Jeannie. Come back, Jeannie. Oh, stinks. It seems even with eyes on your bum, you have to face reality.
At least your cheeks would still be in the same place, I suppose.
Still terrible. You know what, Tiernan? I don't need a genie because we already have the best chief detectives we could wish for. And this week, it's up to you to decide. Did the Headless Blemmyes really exist?
Or were they in fact just ancient shield-carrying warriors, or maybe happy bonobos?
Time to recap the evidence.
Evidence recap.
The first piece of evidence is all the famous writers from history who've mentioned the headless people, or Blemmyes. The first mention was by the father of history, Herodotus, in ancient Greece, in his historical account Histories, where he wrote about people without a head near Libya. Blemmyes were also mentioned by Roman writers Mela and Pliny the Elder, as well as in many myths from across Asia too.
But a lot of ancient writers would create mythical creatures or monsters to depict areas far away that were still unknown or foreign to them. Herodotus's writing does include accurate historical accounts, but it also includes a few language misunderstandings, such as furry ants instead of marmots, and various mythical elements too. The first time Herodotus mentioned the Blemmyes also influenced many other writers to mention them too.
The second piece of evidence is the many medieval maps that show the locations where Blemmyes live, and accounts by famous explorer Sir Walter Raleigh, who said he was told of headless people who lived in South America. Children and travellers told Raleigh that they had seen them.
Saying someone else has seen something isn't credible evidence. There are some theories that the idea of headless people comes from a group of people who had very short necks and their heads set low into their shoulders, or that perhaps it's even an exaggerated description of the bonobo ape who do lower their heads into their chests.
The final piece of evidence is that the Blemmyes tribe did exist in parts of North Africa. We know about them through accounts by ancient Greek and Roman writers.
That is true. And a number of historians have a theory that the ancient Blemmyes warriors either had faces painted on their shields or would hide their heads behind them, making themselves seem headless. But that doesn't mean strange headless people have ever existed.
So now we're handing it over to you, Chief Detectives.
What do you think? Are you a Headless Blemmyes mystery mythbuster?
Or a Headless Blemmyes mystery myth truster?
Ask your grown-ups to send your voice notes to hello@bustortrust.com. Let us know why you're a myth truster or mythbuster on this case or any of our other cases.
And if you're sending us a voice note or an email, make sure your grown-ups give us permission to use them in future episodes.
Let's see what our chief detectives have to say this week about some of our cases.
Hi, my name's Ava, and I'm 9 years old. I'm from West Virginia, and I am a myth buster for the ghost lady of Brisk Castle. And here's my evidence. If there was a ghost in the Brisk Castle and it was moving all around the castle, why would people want to work there? Because it's really scary if a ghost would just be all over the castle and you'd just be walking in front of them. And another reason is if people were out on night tours, then they would probably be really scared and get visions of people being dead and ghosts walking up to them, and they'd probably be so scared that it seems real. And that's my evidence. I love your show. Bye.
You know what? That's so true. If I went for a job interview and they offered me the job, but then there was a ghost there, I'd be like, you know what? I don't want the job anymore. I don't want the job.
Yeah, do you know what? I agree with Ava. I don't think I'd work anywhere that's got a ghost. It's why, luckily, we've got no ghosts here at Bustor Trust HQ.
It's not luck, because ghosts don't exist.
No, but we've also, we wouldn't hire one. We definitely wouldn't hire one here. Thanks, Ava. Thanks for your message.
Hi, I'm Crosby. I'm 10 years old. I live in Rhode Island, in Narragansett. And I want to say I'm a myth truster because I believe that the mandrake plant makes you breathe underwater.
Hi, Crosby. Wow, what I like is not only you're a myth truster about the mandrake plant helping you breathe underwater, but you seem to be talking to us from somewhere underwater, so I can only assume you've been using the mandrake plant before you recorded the message. That is... I like that. That's real detective work right there. You're out doing field research.
It sounds like he was under the sea, down where it's better, because it's wetter under the sea. Enjoy yourself.
Hi, my name is Miriam, and I'm 7 years old, and I am a truster on haunted paintings because the crying boy could probably just burn those houses down if it was haunted, and if a bunch of people's houses were down, it just could have been the painting's fault.
Hi, Miriam. Wow, thank you for being on Team Truster about the haunted paintings. Yeah, you're right. Maybe paintings did burn the house down because they were thinking, I don't want to hang here. This place is rubbish. I want someone to put me up in a better house, and I'm going to make it go on fire until they take me down and put me in a lovely chilled art gallery where they have nice snacks.
Oh, that sounds terrifying. I've got paintings at home right now that might not like my house. I better go home and check.
You really should go right now, Athena. It's important.
Fantastic, as always. I think we've got the greatest listeners in the world.
Oh, and they really do examine the evidence. So impressive. If you enjoyed the show, please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen to your podcasts for more great episodes.
Subscribers help us make this podcast, and all our new supporters get a shout out on the show.
We'd like to say a big hello this week to some brilliant new chief detectives, 8-year-old Josh from Scotland, 7-year-old Jonah, and brothers Rayner and Wilder.
Evie, who's 9, 8-year-old Theo from Virginia, 7-year-old Grant, and 11-year-old Ada.
Thank you so much for supporting us. If you haven't heard your name this week, listen out in the next episode, and welcome to Bustor Trust HQ.
As a subscriber, you get to hear all our extended episodes ad-free and get an early release. To find out how you can support us, head to bustortrust.com for all the details.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time for more Bust or Trust.
Do you think if Blemmies have a tummy ache, it's also a toothache? And do they wear jumpers? But then if they do, how do they see? I've got so many questions.
Well, there is one way to get them answered.
Ho, ho, ho! I can't answer all your Blemmyes queries.
Oh no, not this again.
Wait, come back! I've got so much to tell you! Ouch! Wrong way! Ouch! Wrong way again!